your goal isn't traffic growth. Your goal is business growth. The point of this is getting the right people to the site to convert into customers or convert into leads, whatever the funnel is or whatever stage they're at. If you get 50,000 people to your website and they would never buy from you, don't spend all your time trying to just build traffic. Like, the traffic has to matter.
You're listening to Content Logistics, a podcast for B2B marketers where we explore the foundational and sometimes frustrating elements of content. We're talking to the experts, learning all their tips and tricks. We don't gatekeep here. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of Content Logistics. I'm your host, Baylee Gunnell, and today we're going to be talking about SEO without the BS, what actually moves the needle with SEO. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by SEO, you are not alone. Between ranking factors, algorithm updates, and all the technical jargon, it can feel like an impossible puzzle to solve, especially if you're working on a small marketing team with limited resources. So today we're going to focus on the factors that really matter. We don't want to overcomplicate it. SEO is very complicated, and there are so many technical things that you can do in order to rank for specific keywords. But today we want to cut through all that noise and really just focus on the simple things that matter, especially if you're just getting started or if this is something new to your company. I have an expert, Joe Michalowski, who's helped lots of businesses with this. He's done this internally for companies, and he has helped me so much to understand how all of this works when it comes to SEO. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome to the show, Joe. I'm so happy to have you on here finally. This has been a long time coming.
I am thrilled to be here. We have talked about this for a bit. We talk all the time, so it's like, I don't know. It's basically just a regular meeting, but I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. Well, I think we're going to just go ahead and get started into the foundation of SEO. A lot of people feel like it is this really big, mysterious thing. And I feel like I definitely felt that way a few months ago. And again, we've had so many talks. You have definitely demystified it for me. So let's get started. In the simplest terms, what is SEO and why is it important to businesses?
It's a good question. There are like levels to this, which I'll get to, but it's like a simplest level. It's like Google or any other search engine has ways of indexing the internet, and SEO is your attempt as a website owner to put things on your website that are then indexed by these search engines so that they put you up front and center so you can drive traffic to your website. That is like the most basic version of this. There are so many pieces to making that happen. But like, if you're not doing this, we've gotten to a point where like no one's just going to stumble across your website. So like, even whether you're a local business and you're doing like local SEO, it's like people are looking for restaurants near me, or you're like a B2B business where you're like, I made this software. There's no build it and they will come sort of version. But SEO is kind of the closest you can get to if you build it, they will come, because you can literally just put things on the website and people will show up if you do it right. So there's some intention behind it, but that's why it's so important.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It is different than other marketing channels like paid media. You can turn that on and almost instantly drive traffic to your site, where SEO is more of a long-term game. It takes some strategy behind it, like you said, and building up what we'll talk about, I think, in a minute is your domain authority. Maybe let's dive into that. Do you want to explain what a domain authority is?
Yeah, first of all, there's like hundreds of metrics in SEO, like, or in any marketing thing. And so domain authority is like an owned metric, like Ahrefs, SEO tool for who doesn't know. You can do keyword research, you can like analyze your website in it. Like, they made this metric, and it's meant to be a judge of like how authoritative your website is. And so you can imagine like a brand new website has a domain rating of like, the lowest I've ever seen at a company I joined was 0.2, which is weird. I didn't know they did decimals until I got there.
But not a 0, but 0.2.
Yeah, it's like you're basically nothing, but not quite. It's like trying to be nice to you. but it's like a brand new site. Like there's no, like essentially there's no authority to the site versus like a HubSpot. It's like 90 plus. And so they say it's logarithmic. It's like basically like as you get higher, it gets higher to go up. So you could go from 0 to 20 and then 20 to 40 probably pretty quick. If you're sitting like, I probably imagine like I've gotten stuck in like the 60s before. But all this is for Ahrefs specifically, it is a measure of backlinks and backlink quality. So like if you are a new website, the way Google knows if you are trustworthy is if other trustworthy sites link to your site. And so first thing you can do, and there's like nuance to what kinds of links and things, but it doesn't matter for this conversation. But it's like, first thing you could do is like you could go set up profiles on like Facebook and like LinkedIn. And that is like baseline, like your website now exists in more places than just your website. And then like in the future, imagine like a startup getting funding. They get an article in TechCrunch and it's like, okay, now TechCrunch links to us and they put this press release out. And basically you're building up that authority. So Google says, oh, well, if these trustworthy sites trust this site, then I should too. And it kind of builds up your like equity on the internet of like how well you can rank for things, because Google's like, oh, well, if they published it, I will trust it. And so you want to become more trustworthy, and links are a big way to do that.
Definitely. I just want to put out two definitions that I think are pretty important. So SEO, for people who don't know what that is, that's search engine optimization. And another important thing we're going to be talking about is the SERP. So that is the search engine results page. And those are the first 10 results whenever you search something on Google. So Joe, how does someone end up on the SERP? How do they get those first 10 spots in simple terms?
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, we've had this conversation a lot. Like if you're on LinkedIn, you're like trying to learn about this and you follow people, or you go look up articles, like even like an Ahrefs or a SEMrush or a Backlinko, all these websites have SEO guides and they're enormous. They're like small books, honestly. Like you could have a 200-page book just printing out the PDFs of these web pages. And so we've talked about this before. It's like, try really hard to simplify this, because like I said, there's levels. There's SEO for like a brand new site, and then there's SEO for like a 10-year-old site that has 500 pages on it that are, they've invested in SEO before. And so I don't want to ignore the high end, but if you're like a small startup or you're a small business and you don't really know what you're doing, like the first thing to do is like put content on the website that is optimized for some sort of keyword. And there's like varying beliefs in how that works now, but it's like essentially, like you said, the SERP, like if you search a term, accounting software, it's like you type that in, you hit enter and you look at it, and it's like Google has decided that these are the things that people should see when you type in that term. And so if you don't rank for that term, you don't have it, you're a brand new company and you're like, I want to rank for this. You kind of like analyze what they have done in order to end up there. And so it's like, if Google already knows that these pages should be here, you're like, okay, well, what's my version of this page? It doesn't mean you go write something completely different. There's like a kind of like an adherence to guidelines that exist. And so that might be certain words that are on the page or certain headers that are on the page. That's why you see a lot of SEO articles start with like, what is blank? Because most of the pages have that. And so that's becoming less important than maybe it once was. Google's getting a lot smarter. AI, like ChatGPT, is like pushing them to be better about like how they rank things, because you don't want 10 users. It's not a great user experience for 10 of the same copycat articles to be on page one. So, but if you're just starting and you want to rank for something, it's like find a keyword. There are tools to help you with that, and put a page on the website that talks about that. And if you're doing from your own expertise, it's like write what you think should be on that page. Like that's where you start. Like this is not a foreign concept to like customer research or like whatever your audience cares about and whatever you have as expertise. Like Google is trying to marry that. It's like Google wants to rank things by people that are authoritative and have expertise. And so if you know this is what should be on this page, that's where you start. I could go on and on about this, but I'll pause there. But essentially, put pages on website optimized for some sort of keyword, that means like having the right words on the page, the right headers, covering the right topics for the thing that you're trying to rank for.
Yeah. I think that's where I notice a lot of people overcomplicate it a bit is they get really into the weeds of trying to find the right keywords when, like what you said, just write about what you are an expert in and write good content that has an angle and is interesting that people actually like. And once you nail that down, then get into the weeds of all the other stuff. But it's really a lot more important to get good content than it is to get this really technically sound article on your site.
Yeah, I mean, this is the difference between what you see now is all these tools popping up that are like, you can publish 1,000 AI articles like overnight. And there was like a really popular example when I was at Mosaic, and it was like our competitor. Like, if I saw somebody posting about how they like grew traffic by 500,000, like basically overnight, and I was looking at the pages like, oh, those terms are like the ones I'm trying to rank for. It was like, who is this? And I like poked around. It was like a direct competitor of ours. I looked at the pages and like we all sold to VPs of finance in like startups. Like these are people that are like advanced in their careers. And so like your whole goal is to get people to the website to like trust you and then potentially like buy from you. And what we found was like those AI articles, there were probably like 400 pages that were just variations of like Excel shortcut for blank. And it was like a 100 word page that just had like 5 headers that all said kind of the same thing, but like they were definitely search optimized, but like it's just like a 2-second thing. Like you're not buying software. If you're the kind of person like, how do I do copy paste in Excel? Like you're not looking for FP&A software. And so the smartest people I've ever worked with were like, if you spent a year, anyone listening to this, if you were like, I don't know what to do, if you just spent 6 months or a year just publishing whatever content you think is important to your audience, you just pick a list of 100 things that they ask you and you write an article about that. In a year, go hire an SEO consultant and be like, hey, I have all these really great pages. I know they're exactly what our audience needs to hear, but they don't get any traffic. SEO people will love you. That's like way better to work with than saying, I have nothing. Let's write some what is X articles and try to rank. Like you need to do the audience research. That's what this is. It's like you need to write stuff that your audience cares about. And I think people do it backwards. And that's where you get into trouble. You're like, I just found a keyword. Like we have to follow the rules. And it's not true.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk a little bit about like some of this technical stuff. So what's the difference between on-page SEO and off-page SEO?
On-page SEO is like what you directly control. So it's like, as you would imagine, it's what you put on the page. So when you go into WordPress or Webflow, whatever your CMS is, you type in whatever you want, the words you put in there and the links that you have in there, like those are all on-page SEO tactics. So this would be header structures, the actual copy of the article, internal links, and linking like within your page, whether it's to your website or to other websites. These are all things. And then there's more technical things. You can do like schema markup. We're not going to get into that, but it's like basically back end like web structure to tell Google like this is an FAQ section, and like you can tell it like in the code that this kind of block, and like it helps you rank for little people also ask things and stuff like that. But it's essentially what you can do on your page to try and optimize for certain keywords or certain terms. Off page is the opposite. It's like, what am I doing externally? And that would be like, hiring a company to go find backlinks for you. We talked about links being really important. So it's like, you can have people go like do outreach. Like you can email a bunch of companies and be like, hey, like I saw you had an article about this. I wrote this article. Like we're not competitors. Like mind linking to mine. There's a lot of called black hat. It's like black hat SEO, like nefarious tactics doing this. It's not all. It can be really spammy, but that's not what off-page SEO means. Like off-page SEO is just what you're doing outside of your web page to rank. And that could even be like building up your brand, doing social content around the same topic as your SEO like having a solid brand helps your SEO. Like, I mean, it means that people are more likely to click on you because when you show up, like they know who you are. So it's a lot of link building. It's a lot of like digital PR, basically. And there's a lot more to it, but the links are big. You can do like guest blog, things like that.
Yeah. One thing that we might want to define for some people too is what are the spider bots? I know people hear that and they're like, what does that mean?
I'm not a fun person.
What?
I'm quite boring. However, Baylee knows this because I was talking about it internally. Maybe the funnest like presentation thing I ever did was when I had to explain this. I pulled up the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon pictures. If anyone doesn't know, it's like there's like this theory on the internet. It's old as I am, that like you can find your way to Kevin Bacon from any actor. So it's like if you start anywhere and click through enough like acting credits, whether it's like from movies to writing, you can get your way to something Kevin Bacon was part of in 6 clicks. And it's kind of what SEO is. It's like Google and all of them, but like, you know, it's Google search engine most popular has like the Google bot, and it's like this essentially spider that like crawls around the internet, and not like a spider. It'd be like billions of little tracking pieces, and essentially it's like collecting information. So that's why the links are so important. It's like they have a huge database of all of these indexed pages, and it scrapes all those pages. It knows what's on those pages. And what it does is it follows a href link. That's how hrefs got its name. It is like basically like when it sees a link, it can go from that link to another page, and it crawls along the internet and builds this web of connected content. And so if you are writing something, the way it will find you is like if you link to other things or something else links to you. So that's why you want your website as a whole to get backlinks from other sites, so Google trusts you. And it's why you also want to take your new page and have other pages on your website link to it. So like you don't want, I don't think I ever told you this one, Baylee. You don't want orphan pages. Orphan pages are ones that are like, there's nothing linking to them. And that's what everybody has when they hit publish on a new page, because that page has never existed before. And what most people do is they hit publish. They're like, wow, let me wait for the traffic to roll in. And then they're like, how come this isn't ranked? And maybe it will. Like the website itself has like its own backlink equity. But what you want is to go to other pages on your website and be like, okay, like I'm going to add 5, 7, 8 links to this. So like Google has an easier time crawling along and finding it. But yeah, the Kevin Bacon thing, it's really what comes to mind. It's just crawling between like mind maps of articles.
Yeah. No, that's a great analogy. I love it. Well, let's talk about what are the absolute essentials for someone just getting started with SEO? Let's pretend it's a relatively newer website. They maybe publish a couple articles, but it's not a really big website. What would you recommend that they start doing initially?
I want to be clear about something I think I like referenced in passing before, is like, this is not an isolated thing from the rest of your marketing, which is how it is often treated. People are like, I want to create good content over here and SEO content over here, because SEO content has a bad reputation for being not good, because there are things you need to do. It's like if you're writing for VPs of finance, writing what is a financial model doesn't feel that great, because like they wouldn't be in that position if they didn't know what a financial model was. And so I want to be clear, like your SEO work does not start with, let me jump in and find keywords in Ahrefs. It should be, what are the things that my customers struggle with? It's the same thing you do with any content plan or any marketing plans. Like, what are the pain points? What are the things that my audience cares about? And you think about all that. And so many people will say, like, you can go through sales calls and be like, what are the questions we're being asked? You can go through customer interviews and be like, what are the things that you most struggle with in your day to day? And like, those are essentially your topics. And then what you want to do is take those, and you can take those topics and explore what's part of them. Like, you know, If it's, I'm struggling to build a financial model for my business, well, there's many pieces of a financial model. So you can start like bulleting out, like, well, are you struggling with revenue planning or profit and loss statement? Or is it like headcount planning if you're a growing business? And then you take all those topics and you go plug them in Ahrefs. And so you're like, I know that what I want to write about is this. I want this on my page, and I'm going to do a really good job because it answers a question that my audience cares about. And so I'm going to add my expertise. I'm going to really teach them what to do. And then you want to add like an organic engine behind it. You're like, okay, what I want to talk about aligns with what this keyword is. And so you're like, great. I will write what my audience cares about and do what I need to do to optimize it for this term. Like that is far and away like number one essential thing is like thing audience cares about, back into keyword that applies to that. And then from there, your header structures are really important. I told Baylee the one H1 on every page. It's the first thing I look for if I get a new site or a new client, and they're like, is my SEO broken? I'm like, do you have more than one H1 on the page? Which is very common.
Yeah.
It's just if you have a template that got messed up somewhere, or you wrote an article and you just add an H1 for some reason, like you can, just shouldn't do it. So one H1, and then everything is like a recognizable structure. You don't want to go from like the H1 to an H5 to like an H3 to like, there should be a logical structure to it where the main subsections are H2s that have subsections that are H3s, and then internal links are the other one. So the header structure in the internal links is like the thing you want to rank for, add links to the article with the anchor text, the text of the link, that the highlighted like blue or whatever color with the underline should be the keyword or a variation of the keyword. So like headcount planning versus headcount planning strategy, like variations of the keyword. And so honestly, if you cover those three things, you just publish a bunch of pages with all those three things covered and all the links that are like making sense and they're not overlapping, you're I don't know, some number of steps ahead of a lot of businesses. Like no topic clusters or hub and spoke models or whatever else you want to complicate it with. Like that's all those terms you hear elsewhere are important, but like the three things I just mentioned, customer research, the header structure, the internal links, if you can cover those things and do it well, like be in much better shape than most. Yes. That is definitely not all there is to it. I promise. Like I don't want to make it seem like this is, it's just really easy, but like most people just, they don't do that part and they worry about a bunch of other things. And so like, just do that part. Just go do that. Worry about the other stuff after.
Yeah. I think something we notice is people are worried about SEO, but they're not even making content. Like they're not talking to their customers. They don't fully understand who their target audience is, and they're worried about SEO, and that's not what they should be worried about. They should worry about making good content first and then get into the weeds of it. Because making good content, I mean, we believe a lot in a repurposing strategy. So like, that's where this episode came into. I've had so many clients be like, oh, how does SEO work? So I'm like, okay, let's have a conversation with Joe. I'm going to make a bunch of blog posts from this. I'm going to make a newsletter about it. I'm going to make social content about it. And now I have something to point to whenever my clients ask me that question again.
Yeah, I really like our coworker Jacob had a conversation with somebody about SEO, and like I know I've talked to Jacob about it, and there are so many things you could think about. Like there are, we have not scratched the surface of what SEO is. So I just want to be really clear that like, this is very complicated. I'm not saying like, if you just do this, like you'll grow your traffic to some like tens of thousands, but you will be in a much better position to like optimize things later or like clean things up. If you know that everything you put on the website was like of a quality that you would go share it with, like if a customer showed up, you would take that article and you'd be like, look at this. So if you're like happy to distribute it and say like, this, I think will be valuable to you, you can go clean up the SEO stuff later. Even if you don't know what keyword that you're going to rank for off from the start. If you want to do SEO, like you should have the terms and like you should know what you're trying to rank for, what topics you're trying to rank for. But even if you don't, like you could publish stuff for 6 months and then go back and be like, clean this up for SEO. And maybe it means that you're combining 2 articles or something, but it's like, that's just a way better position to be in than if you're just sitting there being like, I don't know, like, what's the keyword going to be on this page? Maybe we shouldn't publish it until like we have one or something. So it's, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of nuance, but I think there are levels to it. You could go hire a $25,000 a month SEO agency and do everything like perfect from the ground up. But if you're a small bit, like, that's overkill for you. Like you're not there yet.
Yeah.
And so you got to build your way there. You got to put stuff on the website first.
Yep. So let's go into this other scenario. So we talked about someone who basically doesn't have much on their website to now we have someone with a bit larger website. They publish quite a few articles. They have product pages, things like that. What should they be prioritizing?
The product page part is an interesting one. I don't want to say this is the right answer. It's just how I think about it is like, your product pages should, like the main ones, the ones that are like in your header navigation. I'm not talking about like a landing page you make for whatever. Like, I think you should split. These are the things that when someone shows up, I am selling them my product. So I need these feature pages. This is my homepage. And your homepage is going to rank for like your brand name. You shouldn't be trying to force your homepage to rank for like a certain software key, like a bottom funnel keyword, like a industry software or like best whatever. You want your pages to sell, so like you need to write them or like craft them however is needed, like for your positioning to work out, regardless of SEO. Yes, you can still cover the header structures should still make sense. The back end technical stuff should be covered. The links should make sense. Like, but as far as the content goes, you don't need to find a keyword for those. But if you have a lot of them, if you have a lot of pages, like where do you start? It's like I have a lot of product pages, I have a lot of blog posts, and like I want to do better with SEO. It's like, what do I rank for today? And what are my opportunities to move up? And so you can pull a list of, okay, well, this product page, I never optimized it for SEO. Like I didn't try, but it might rank 45th for like a term that matters to you. Like, again, I'll just go back to my finance stuff. It's like, maybe we find out that our feature page ranks well for like financial modeling software. It's like, okay, like I can go now, take that keyword and see, let's optimize the headers and like, let's tweak some of the content. Let's add some FAQs to like beef up this page so it ranks for that. And so if you're like, where do I start? I have a bunch of content. It's like, what ranks well now? And also what overlaps? Like if you never thought about it before, you probably have a lot of pages that are competing with each other for the same terms. That's called cannibalization. It's really aggressive. It's unnecessarily aggressive of a term. This is not that big a deal, but I guess they're eating each other. But it's like, how do we clean that up? Like, do we get rid of one of the pages? Do we combine the pages? And you're basically trying to say like, hey, Google, like I know you're confused right now. It looks like you're not sure which of these pages to rank. And so instead of ranking one of them well, you rank both of them at, like on page 7, where nobody on earth will ever find them. And so you're like, great, like what do I do to clean up these like overlapping pieces? And that might mean deleting a lot of pages. Like you might remove a lot of pages from your website that don't get traffic, like pruning, just like any, like if you're a gardener, I have this giant tree that I don't prune well, but like you need to like cut off some of the pages and you like remove some of this so the rest of it can grow. That was a very rambly answer, but it's like, if you have a big site, it's like analyzing what exists today, what ranks today, and like making improvements, you're going to see a lot better results than just dumping more pages on top. Like you have to audit what's there and try to improve and clean things up.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be messy.
It's a lot easier to optimize a page than it is just to create a brand new page, though. You'll probably see the rankings go up a lot faster with something that already exists than creating something brand new. I think it goes back to what we were talking about before, like how important it is to get content on your website as soon as possible. Good content, too, because I think most people would be surprised that they do start to rank for things and start to show up and get traffic for things if it's well written and it's a valuable article. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about keyword research. So we have parent topics, subtopic topics, long tail keywords, things like that. Also like the monthly search volume and the keyword difficulty. There's a lot of things. I know I just threw out a lot of terms for people who maybe don't know these things. How do you go about keyword research? What are you looking for when trying to find a good keyword?
It's a good question. Again, I want to be clear. So we've been talking about this for a bit. I have done SEO for a while, but I'm more of like a content person that like knows SEO. Like I would never go start my own like solo business and say I'm an SEO consultant. Like that. So again, like when I say there are levels to it, like that's for me too. Like I am like I do the content part and I can get us to a certain level with SEO, and other people would take it, to like the super optimized, like hundreds of thousands, like, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 plus like traffic a month where it's all like working together. So when I talk about keyword research, it's not like this big automated process where we're going to spit out a table of like 5,000 keywords. Like you could go to Ahrefs or SEMrush or whatever and just type in a couple topics and it'll spit out tons of ideas for you for keywords. But again, like this is where you get into trouble where it's like, all right, I'll just write articles for those keywords, but are they really what your audience needs or cares about? Are they going to convert? Are they going to like really build trust for you? So for me, it's what I said before. Like I start with like, if we're doing like software, like what does the product do? If you're doing services, like what do we offer? What problems do we solve? What do I want to write about? And so like, if I'm thinking about like organic traffic is usually strangers, they don't know you. So what do I want to put in front of them? Well, my audience usually struggles with this process. Well, let me write an article teaching them how to do that process. And I become like oh, by the way, I can help you solve this, or my product helps you solve this. Here's like how it works. Like, do you want a demo or do you want to get on a call? Like you're whittling them down. And so I start with like, what does the product do? What does the service offer? And what are like the pain points? And what do I do? So like, those are the two sides. And in the middle, and like, then I just come up with terms. Like you can use ChatGPT and be like, here's a bunch of ideas. Can you build on these terms? And like, it'll spit out 100 seed terms, like seeds, like things that you would go put into a tool and be like, I thought of this keyword. What does it look like? What are ideas? And so maybe you found a keyword that doesn't have any data, but like there's a related one. It's like if you just make a small variation, same thing, but like that's what you should focus on. So if anything, and if anyone takes anything out of this, it's like, please do not start in Ahrefs. Please start with whatever customer research and like positioning you have as a business. And then you asked about like a lot of these terms like parent topics and things. And so there's this is what's getting more nuanced. So like you can get topic clusters and parent topics and child topics of the parent. And it's like every tool has a different way to look at them. What you want to find is like a term that sort of like stands alone. So like a parent topic would be, I type in this term and the pages that show up are like optimized for that term. So if I do, I don't know, somebody will go look this up and it'll be a bad example, but I'll try it anyway. It's like you might type in financial modeling best practices as as a user, like somebody, like you're trying to find that. And maybe everything that shows up is like, what is a financial model? Financial modeling process. Like it's not like articles that were only written for financial modeling best practices. So you want to find the thing that like is the ladder up. So the article, no, but you don't want to write the article just for financial model best practices. You want to write the article for the full topic that Google is like saying it wants to rank things for. So instead of just ranking 10 articles that are about best practices, it's like 10 more complete guides. And if you're trying to optimize, do keyword, you want the term that is like that top level. And so in Ahrefs, it's called a parent topic. So if you type something in, you're like, I want to rank for this, and it says parent topic, and it's like a variation, you probably want to write something optimized for the parent topic instead of the child topic.
Yeah.
There's nuance to that. Like there's probably cases where that's not true, but you want to like publish the complete thing. So 200 words that are just 15 bullet points on financial modeling best practices probably won't rank if what Google thinks should rank is a 3,000 word guide with every aspect of building a financial model. And one of the sections is financial model best practices. So customer research, find seed terms, use AI to like build them out, dump all that into a keyword research tool like Ahrefs, and then try to find like the top level, like parent topic that is most relevant to your business, essentially, and your customers.
Yeah, we love using Ahrefs. Honestly, you can do a lot just with the browser. You just go into incognito mode, search the keyword that you want to rank for, and see what is currently ranking for that. And I would just read through those articles. How long are they? What are the headers that they're using? Like, what are they talking about? And then do something better. You're just competing against what's currently on there. One thing that you've taught me, though, Joe, is look at what is currently ranking. If you're seeing a huge site ranking for that keyword like HubSpot or like a NetSuite, like you're probably not going to be able to beat them just because they have such a big website. So I would keep looking for keywords that you see smaller websites ranking for. And that if you see that, that's probably a good sign that it's a good keyword to go after.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to like spend all of your time going up against the biggest dogs in the park. Like, you got to kind of play in your lane until you're ready. But that doesn't mean you don't do it. Like, you just got to know what to expect. So if that keyword that your biggest competitor is, an Oracle or a NetSuite or like IBM or something, like these huge websites with, back to the domain authority, like with a lot of domain authority, if that keyword, if that term is, or like idea, concept, topic, whatever, is still critically important to your business, like put the page on the website. Just know, like, your expectation is not, why isn't this ranking tomorrow? Like, you got to know what you're up against. But to your point, like, for B2B companies, I really like low volume, low difficulty terms. So there are two metrics in Ahrefs or SEMrush, any of these keyword tools. Monthly search volume, so it's like how many people how many searches per month does this get? You could do like consumer terms like like Nike shoes, probably like tens of thousands of searches a month and incredibly high like essentially like good luck to anyone trying to rank for Nike shoes unless you're like Amazon, Nike, or some other giant like clothes outlet. But for B2B, you might write articles for terms that are like 20 searches a month, and like like no big companies rank for it. Like, it's not hard to rank for, but it's like, I don't know, would you rather 20 people show up per month with a very specific term that has something you can solve as a business, or spend all your time looking at these like high volume general terms that maybe like a college kid might look at, like, but you're selling to CMOs. It's like, you want to follow what your audience cares about, and that might mean writing like really low volume terms, but you have a better chance of ranking them. So that's usually where I start. So if you're asking what is a good keyword, low volume, low difficulty doesn't mean good, but it might in your case and most B2B cases. It's like, that's kind of the pool you get to play, especially when you're new.
Yeah. A lot of those keywords I found tend to be high intent too. Like, I way rather have someone like you said, 20 people searching for my specific software service or the specific problem they're trying to solve than to get some banking codes to write an article or solve a problem. Like, you're getting to your target audience using something that's higher intent, maybe lower volume, but if it's getting to your audience, better.
Yeah, I mean, your goal isn't traffic growth. Your goal is business growth. Like, so the point of this is getting the right people to the site to convert into customers or convert into leads, whatever the funnel is or whatever stage they're at. If you get 50,000 people to your website and they all have nothing to do with any, like, they would never buy from you, or they have to, they're a college kid trying to study for an exam, and it'll take them 25 years to get into a position to buy you might not even be around 25 years. It's like, it's just,
Yeah.
Like, don't spend all your time trying to just build traffic. Like, the traffic has to matter. That's what this is for.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do some common myths or misconceptions, just rapid fire. Does publishing on a strict schedule actually help rankings?
No. How strict? Not that strict. It's like every SEO question that's ever existed gets an it depends answer, and it's what everybody hates about SEO. No, most people think that means like I will publish twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week, and that is how Google will know that I am legit. I have published 20 articles in one day and then not again for a month. Like, I have published once a week. The cadence on the short term doesn't matter. On the long term, it does. Like, you don't want to publish once a year and hope that you're ranking. Like, you need to be consistently putting content out. Freshness is a real thing Google cares about. Like, how fresh is the thing that you are writing about? Like, do you have a 20-year-old article trying to rank for something that someone's dealing with now? They're not going to prioritize you unless it's definitively like the greatest thing of all time. So like, it does matter to an extent, but more in the long term than in the short term.
Yeah. And freshness can relate to brand new pages as well as updating existing pages, right?
Yep. Totally.
Okay. How important are things like meta descriptions and alternate text?
You need them to cover your bases. So like you want to write a meta description with the keyword, like it is crawled and Google does like read it. So if it's blank, you're basically like, it's like you didn't finish the job. So like, if we're talking about on-page SEO or like technical, like I don't know which bucket it would fall in, I guess, maybe technical, but like you need to do it. But if you've ever been on search results pages, the actual meta description is almost never featured. The little like it would be the little text underneath all the links and the URL and stuff. And it's usually like a snippet of the article or the page. It used to be that you would write the meta description. That's what would show up, that Google would present those. But like, it's been a really, really, really long time since that was the case. However, you still need to do it. So like, are they critically important? I don't know. Maybe not. But like, do it. Put your keyword in there. Alt text for images. Describe the image properly. Don't just stuff keywords in there. It's like, say what the image is, and you'll have a better time.
And then what happens when a company creates too many pages targeting similar keywords?
Yeah, we talked about the aggressive cannibalization term. It could even be two. Like, so you said like too many. If you're targeting, not even targeting, usually this happens when people aren't thinking about it. I guess if you like do a bunch of pages and you forget you wrote an article about something, you might do this, but usually it's like you weren't planning for this. And so you wrote 2 articles, and it's like, I'll pick on one client, I won't name them, but like they basically written a lot of stuff on like AI accounting, which is great. Like they're like, these are good articles about AI accounting terms. But if you like do the SEO research, they all kind of ladder up to the same term. So for them, they're like, we published good content. But now going back, it's like, if we're going to search optimize it, I'll probably combine the information on most of those pages. So like, you want one page targeting one thing. You don't want other pages kind of encroaching on it, because it will. It's like me. It's like, it's wrong to say that Google is like way too smart. The algorithm is incredibly smart, and like you can't really confuse it. But publishing 2 pages for the same thing, it's basically like, I don't know where, like, which one do you guys want to put up on the first page? I don't know. So instead, it just dumps you somewhere lower. And so if you combine and make sure everything is focused and not overlapping, everything rise up.
Yeah.
I'm horrible at rapid fire, by the way. Every answer. There's like, I'm just incapable of rapid fire. I think.
No, it's all good. We're getting an explanation, which I think will be helpful. These are kind of nuanced questions too. They're not just a yes or no.
I'll give you a yes or. I feel like the yes or no will be unsatisfactory. It's just like you just won't be that satisfied by it.
No, yeah. This is great. Okay, what's the difference between getting a backlink from a high authority site versus maybe like a really relevant niche smaller site?
Oh man, what a question. You want to? I just said I would try to be faster, and Bailey's like, "Here's a super nuanced question." I'll spin it a little differently. Like, let's say the same website, the same high authority site, linking to your homepage versus linking to like a specific page. And so what happens a lot is like, especially like the funding example is a good one. So it's like, startup gets funding, they get a lot of press because they hire this PR agency and like suddenly they're getting a lot of links from places, but they're all to like the homepage. So the site's domain authority rises, but it's not like any one page is like ranked. So like if I were going to choose, can I get a backlink on relevant anchor text to this very specific page that is like some bottom funnel, like high intent, like like financial modeling software? I would rather the high authority site link to my page about financial modeling software on that term, because like that to me makes me more money potentially than if my site rises. It's not that I don't want the site to rise. So the niche site, you're more likely to get a link to a specific page on specific anchor text. A big site with a high domain authority is probably like you're likely talking about like something to your homepage, which is good. Like you want that. So if I could pick 10 of them, I'd take the high domain authority and worry about the other one later. You don't have to get the specific anchor text, but if there's like a term that you're like, I've optimized this page to death, like I've done everything I can and I just can't crack the top 10 or top 5, getting a backlink from a mid-tier, even a mid-tier site, like that's relevant to you, like with the right anchor text, like could, make the difference there. So it's situational. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Again, the nuance.
Yeah.
This next question, Joe, I know it's not going to be just a yes or no.
I'm just going to say
We've talked about this one a lot. With AI tools like ChatGPT changing the way people are getting information, how does this affect SEO? How can we show up in ChatGPT or that AI search at the top of the SERP now? I told you it wasn't going to be a yes or no.
Yeah, just say yes and move on. I'll start by saying, like, we don't know. It's like, we don't know how yet to revert. If somebody's promising you they can make you show up in ChatGPT searches, like, they could try, but like, there is so much less data about getting ChatGPT to rank to like mention you than there is like how to get Google to put you in the top 10. So most people, I'm sure people have done research. Like I personally, I'm not like, oh, do these 3 things and ChatGPT will start mentioning you like that. It's just not, you're not going to get that. At least not from me. Somebody smarter than me can maybe do it. I don't think so. But to me, it's like essentially the same thing. Like everything we've talked about, it's like write the best possible content you can for a topic that matters to your audience. And so if that means writing, like you want to show up when somebody types into Google or to ChatGPT, like I'm looking for a new I'm really harping on the financial modeling software thing. It's just spent a lot of time doing this. So it's like if somebody goes and types in like, what are the best financial modeling software for like startups? It's like, usually the people searching those have much more specific asks than Google searches. People are trained to go to Google and be like, financial modeling software, and then sift through the results to find the one relevant to them. Because our old competitor, like Anaplan, might be used by a Fortune 500 company versus where I was for like startups. But if you write your page and you're like, we are for these people, it's like you are trying to address, like you're not trying to be everything to everybody, unless you're like a HubSpot or whoever. But like if you make pages specifically for your audience and you're very clear about who it's for, and you follow all the same principles of like the page is structured well and it's covering the topic as well as it can, like you're basically doing everything you can to show up in ChatGPT. So people just saying like, oh, I got these ChatGPT referrals, probably have pages where like they specifically call out like who they're for, what they do, like where, covering a topic as well as they can, and being really specific, like when you give examples of things and like not just giving generic answers, because again, like that is the value of a ChatGPT is you can go in and and give it very specific parameters, and it will sift through all of this knowledge to figure it out. And people that struggle with, trying to get their positioning right, it's like they're not trying to niche down. They're not trying to say we are for you, we're not for you. My guess is that those would have a harder time in ChatGPT answers. The AI overview thing that you mentioned, totally, that is like Google. It's the same exact conversation. Structure page well, use structured data like schema markup. I'm not getting into that, but it's like technically sound pages that cover topics well get mentioned up there in the AI overview. But those are things that are covering the basics. So cover those, but also how deep can you go? Because if someone has a real problem to solve, they'll probably scroll past that and try to find an article that gives a better explanation than just the what is and why it's important.
Yeah. The goal shouldn't be to get onto AI overview, but back to just writing good content. We have a client that was really wanted to get onto these AI overviews, and it just happened naturally. We just started ranking really well for a lot of questions that their clients were having, and it just automatically showed up.
Yeah, nothing is by chance. It's not just this random thing happened to us, but it feels that way when you do the basics that we talked. It's if you were just writing or creating things that are of value standalone and you think they cover the topic comprehensively, maybe you find out it didn't. Maybe later on you're actually, this could have been better. I'm missing this chunk, and you go add. But if you cover it as comprehensively as you think up front, maybe you find gaps later, but just good things happen when that's your goal. Not so good things happen when you're just what's this keyword? How do I optimize for it? Start with the other side first, and good things will randomly happen. It's not really random because you put in a lot of work to make it happen. But
yeah. Hey, Joe,
surprise.
This is a yes or no question now.
Ooh,
this is going to be triggering, though.
Oh, no.
Is SEO dead?
Totally dead. Nobody should do it anymore. And let me help all of our clients win. Everybody else go somewhere else. No, it's not dead. It's evolving for sure. That HubSpot story where they lost all their traffic. It's guess what? I don't know if anyone, there's a graph. They went from 10 million searches a month to 2. So the graph is giant cliff. That is,
yeah.
It looks horrible, but if you look closer at the things they actually lost, it's so much nuance there. It's not that. It's definitely different. Not that.
Yeah, it's changed. Okay, I got 2 more questions for you, things that I think are really important. The first one is, what metrics should people care about? I know we have a lot of people really focused on the ranking, and maybe that is misleading, but I think it comes back to what is the goal of SEO? And maybe I almost am starting to answer the question, but I'll give it to you, Joe.
You know more than you're letting on. I'll say that, but thanks for letting me soapbox for so much of this. There's a hierarchy to metrics. So if you're at the top, let's say you're going to go talk to the CEO or someone somebody's coming in over the top of the marketing team or the SEO team or whoever it is, and they're how are we doing? You're all right, well, tier 1 is what are our conversions like? So how many leads, MQLs, SQLs, opportunities, and customers have we generated from organic search? That is tier 1. And as always, you just want to see that up and to the right. That's where the graph should go. Is that always the case? Absolutely not. But that's what you want to happen. So that's tier 1. So that's the first thing you should be talking about is here's how we're performing in organic search. Then it's well, how is that happening? Now you need an answer to the question. And so whether that's good, it's well, great. How do we do more of that? And you might say, okay, well, our organic traffic is we are generating more we are driving more people to the website this month and this quarter than we did previously. So you're okay, now tier 2 is how many eyeballs am I getting? And so that's specifically traffic numbers. And that might be you could split that by brand traffic. So like how many people are coming to your like homepage versus like content traffic. So like brand and non-brand traffic. That's how I prefer to split it up. Because most of the SEO work you do, in many cases, will be like adding like articles to the blog. And so you're like, okay, like that's my like those things are not, no one's searching for our brand for those. Versus how many people just went to Google and said marketers in demand because they heard about us somewhere else. You want to track. So that would be like tier 2. And then it's like, okay, well, like our traffic is up. Why? And it's like, okay, well, tier 3 is all of the rest of the SEO stuff where it's like, well, we generated or we published these new articles and we optimized these articles. Like that's what we did. And these are the ones that gained the most traffic and these are the ones that lost the most traffic. And here's how our keyword rankings have gone up. Like we rank for more terms now. We generated these backlinks. So our domain authority or domain rating, whatever, like went up X number. But too many people like start there. And they're like, how did we do? The CEO comes in or CMO comes in. They're like, how's our SEO going? And you're like, we rank for so many keywords now. And they're like, cool, buddy. Like, congrats. How's my business doing? And then you're like, oh, let me try to ladder up. It's going to be a lot better if you go down. And like your answer at each stage is like, you care about this. Here's what happened. The next stage is like, why did that happen? And the next stage down is like, why is that happening? And all of it is so that you have like information to go do more. And so I mentioned a handful of metrics, but like you could put any buckets, but it's trying to ladder down from business outcomes to like channel outcomes to channel like tactics, I guess. I hope that helps. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no. Well, I know we've talked about this a lot, and I think it's really important because sometimes we get stuck in, oh, what's our ranking? What are we, number 1? Are we number 10? Like, where do we sit? When that fluctuates sometimes, like if you get spot number 1, like you could be spot 6 the next week. It's gonna change, but the better story is how much traffic are you getting to your website? Are you getting leads? And how is that working? So I think that's just really important not to get so stuck on the actual ranking of a specific keyword.
Yeah, I mean, the reason you get caught up in that is like this happens with like executives or senior people. I was like, you get caught up in it because your whether you know it or not, your hypothesis is that term is critically important because it directly aligns with what we do. And if people search it, we need to show up because they would buy our thing. And so there's nothing wrong with wanting to show up for certain terms, but like you can't just like safeguard, like there are fluctuations. It might be 3 one week and 2 the next week and 4. And like, you're just trying to figure out why. And like, that's why you track fluctuations in traffic. It's like, oh, this really important page is down 7% traffic month over month. And then you're like, well, why? And it's like, well, either we went down in rankings or maybe the term just like maybe your ranking stayed the same. Your average ranking is exactly the same. And the term just didn't have as much search volume. So like, you need all the data to tell the story, but that's not like you're reporting. That's not like you're not going in and saying, hey, like we averaged position 4 for these 500 viewers. Like no one's going to process that. It's just, so got to use it to support your story, not tell the story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully this is making sense to everyone.
I don't know. Who knows? Idea.
Last fun question, Joe. What is your biggest content marketing ick?
This is the I ask everyone this question.
Yes.
Man.
No pressure.
Biggest I should have come prepared for this. I knew that this was asked and I didn't think about it. Biggest content
I know you've got lots, Joe.
I have so many.
You have so many.
My biggest content marketing is, how do I put this? I think overthinking. People who will like overanalyze like what to create, and it's like they're getting lapped by people who are just making stuff. And so my biggest content marketing is talking to non-content people. So it could be like CEOs, founders, even like more senior people in product marketing, like anyone who like doesn't directly sit in a content seat and trying to like convince people that like creating good content that aligns with the customer, like that is a goal in and of itself. And sometimes it doesn't need this umbrella theme and like all these like stages to it. It's like, just go make a thing that your audience will find valuable. And most people don't do that. So that bothers me a lot. I'm going to think of like 10 more that are better than this after this. It's going to really bug me.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's a pretty important thing because it's just going to slow you down. It's going to not help your SEO. The sooner you can get a web page live, the better. The sooner you can start posting on LinkedIn, the better off you're going to be. Yeah.
The last thing I'll say is like the best partnership I ever had was with an agency. My friend Nakia and Nigel owns the agency. I'll do a shout out to GM. It went well because I was in-house doing more than just blog content. Like I had to run a podcast and we did a lot of webinars and I wrote ebooks, and like my job was to care about the quality of the content we created, and the SEO team's job, OGM's job, was to create an organic growth like engine behind it. And that model worked really well for us. And in a small, like most of our clients, us, even like you're doing both, but when you're responsible for both, it's easy like to struggle to separate the two. But they are two, like SEO and content are not the same function. They work together. I think SEO is like a distribution channel for the broader content function. But that partnership worked really well because they understood how to like apply keyword research and things to the things I said I cared about as just content. And if everybody can take that mindset, it's like figure out what matters for content first and then apply the SEO stuff to it after, I think they'll be much better position.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well,
Thanks,
Joe,
Bailey.
where can people go to learn more about you?
About me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I am terribly Joseph Michalowski, which please just call me Joe. Joseph. Somebody took Joe. Couldn't be Joe Michalowski. But connect with me on LinkedIn. I work here at Marketers in Demand. So if you want to work with me or chat, come get in touch.
Thanks, Joe. I'll make sure to link your profile there because Michalowski is a hard word to spell.
It's people in my youth would call me Mike Wazowski.
That's cute.
Yeah.
It sounds like you don't like it, Joe.
I mean, we're Disney fans, but
Yeah.
Mike Wazowski is a small green blob with one eye. Not exactly who I would like to emulate, but that's okay.
Did I ever tell you, my friend and I, she was Mike Wazowski and I was Sully for Halloween one year. It was fun.
Incredible. I'll have to do that someday. I'm not a Halloween person, but I told my wife that if our daughter, who's 5, ever asks me to be anything, I would always be it. So somebody will have to plant that in her mind at some point, because I'm not coming up with the idea. I'll only do it if forced.
Yeah.
I'm not planting that seed myself.
Yeah. Well, now you're telling the adults. They're gonna start telling your daughter.
That's okay. She's pretty stubborn. I don't know. I think she has to come up with the idea herself. I'm not sure she'll just listen.
Oh,
We'll see.
I love kids. Well, thank you, Joe, so much for hopping on this very long recording. But I'm excited for this to go live.
I have no idea
Thank
how
you.
long it's been. We just kept chatting. Thank
Time
you for having
flies.
me, and probably talk to you in an hour.
Great. See you, Joe. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Content Logistics. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode. Bye.